Hi everyone, my name's Charlie and I've helped over 150 people win their PIP claims and I received PIP myself. My mum had a stroke, bad stroke. It's now the 25th of May. She had the stroke on the 27th of April. My mum is the person that helps me. So for those of us that live with chronic illness and we're dependent on one person, I think we all live in fear of what am I going to do if something happens to them? And I'm excessively good at compartmentalizing. I can put stuff in my head, I can close it, and then come back to it later. What happened was, it was a Sunday when we usually volunteer, and she wasn't up. So I waited till 8:15, and then I went to check on her, and I found her on the floor beside her bed. She clearly had a stroke. Her left side of her face had completely dropped. Left arm, left leg paralysis. She was in a heap on the floor and furious that she'd been waiting since 6 a.m. for me to arrive, and she couldn't get up. She was really distressed. She spent 2 hours, 15 minutes trying to get up. She was adamant if she got up, she would feel better. So I had to, now I do have prior medical training that is decades out of date, okay? So was, not anymore, qualified first aider. I have a level 5 in continuing care. But again, these are decades out of date. So whenever I do YouTube videos, I am not a medical professional, okay? However, I did spend a couple of years studying because I wanted to be a nurse, but I couldn't because of psoriasis and MRSA, which is bacteria resistant to antibiotics, hit the headlines. So I couldn't go to university to qualify. Due to my training, I've seen people have strokes, I've seen people after they've had a stroke, and I specialise in palliative care, okay, which is when end of life. I was trained by a matron, deputy matron, senior sister, very strict, and our goal was always quality of life, dignity and death. So as soon as I saw my mum, I knew no question she's had a stroke. It was really obvious. Explained that to her, got her to calm down, called an ambulance. With a stroke, you need to act fast. There are things that they can do nowadays which helps you recover. Unfortunately, with my mum, because she went to bed at midnight and she was up at 6 a.m., I didn't get to her till 8:15. We knew we had a 6-hour window where she could have had a stroke. Then I called the ambulance at 8:15. Which, by the way, when I said to the ambulance, what's the ETA? How long are they going to be? I'm sorry, we can't tell you that. And I was like, no, but like 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, can you give me an idea? Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't know. Yes, you do know. I used to be a transport specialist for 25 years. You do know. You know where the ambulances are. You know how many people are on shift. You know who is currently out on a call. You do know. You know how far away the base is to my home, is what was going through my head. But I just went, right. Would you like to stay on the line? No. I was pissed. So because they didn't know the ETA, I got my mum into a more comfortable position. So I got her laid down, pillows under her head, relax, calm her down. Are you sure I've had a stroke? She's saying, listen, I'm like, yes, you've definitely had a stroke. The ambulance was here within 5 minutes. Brilliant. Now, I don't know whether it's helpful to go into whether you want to know facts about strokes or should I just get on with the PIP stuff? So I think what I'll do is, obviously I could talk to you about, for example, there's 2 types of stroke. One is blood clot, which is what my mum had, which is the recovery rate of that is better than the bleeds. Okay, so blood clot or bleeds. My mum had a blood clot. I could give you like facts about strokes. I could talk to you about recovery time. I could talk to you about what happened on the stroke ward. I'm in Stoke, so I could talk to you about the care that they do there, how they manage that. What happens? I could talk to you about what happens when you have carers, the need for carers, occupational therapy, what they do. I'm not sure if you're interested. So, or do you just want me to shut up and get on with PIP? So, if you are interested, comment below. And let's say if we get, to be honest, I don't look at the comments because the haters really fuck up my mental health. So what I'll do is I'll ask codename YOLO, who looks after communication. I'll ask her to check this video. And let's say if more than 20 of you comment that you'd like more information on some facts on strokes and everything I just said, if we get more than 20 comments, I'll do a separate video on it. Because even if it's 20 of you, like if it adds value to that many people, brilliant. I don't do these videos to just try and get views. My goal is always add value. Does it add value? And What I did struggle with is when we were on the stroke ward, it was amazing. They were amazing. They are the elite on that ward. The doctors, the nurses were amazing. Um, but you could see that it was all the norm for them. So there, it was quite hard to get communication on what happens next. So if there'd have been a video, I would have wanted to see it. So I think it would be helpful, but again, I'm not sure if that's what you want from me. What I want to do is I'm going to go through PIP and the points, because stroke is one of the top reasons that people end up claiming PIP. Okay. Now, the challenge with this is that everyone responds differently. Okay. And the first 6 to 8 weeks could be really fast recovery. And for my mum, it was her, like, I because I specialised in end of life palliative care, I didn't see how quickly the human body can recover. So for me, it was like literally seeing a miracle performed in front of my eyes. Every day, every hour, she was improving. She was doing something she couldn't do before. It does help that we are stubborn as fuck. I cannot and have fiercely independent, which is why I do get aggravated by my limit. That is massively, massively helpful. Honestly, it's like a miracle. I had no idea. So first 6 to 8 weeks is amazing. Or can be. Obviously, everyone responds differently. But there's some videos on conditions where I'm like, ignore it, only this one. Whereas this video, there might be a couple of options depending on how they've recovered. I hope that makes sense. Let's go to the points. Before we get to the points, please remember they need to be under pension age, living in the UK, and if someone is terminally ill, meets that criteria, you need to call them, and the DWP are stunning at switching PIP on very, very quickly. And I mean stunning. If someone is at end of life, they don't fuck about. They are amazing. So these are the government points. This is what you get assessed against during PIP. There are 2 sections. Daily living has got 10 activities in it, which I'm going to go through with you. And then there's moving around, mobility, which has 2 activities in it. This is everything this is what they've got to figure out. Where do you fit within this scoring system? Okay. Some people that have had a severe stroke, full paralysis, one side of their body, usually the left side, might be 8 points that they are no longer able to prepare food. Like if you're in a position where they can't even stand up from the chair without assistance, then you would be in this category of 8 points. But for many people, it might be number 2, that if they can sit, they've got one good arm, or maybe 2, but still a bit weakness on one side, they might be able to do a basic meal so long as they're sitting on a perch chair. Or that they can use a microwave. The prompting, not so much, because sometimes people with a stroke are a bit confused. So there could be a minority that might be in this category for prompting, but I would say most people we're going practical, okay, because of their physical limits. So we're only talking about stroke. We're not talking about other conditions, okay, just stroke. The assistance, I would say that people very rarely, if they're in the assistance category, then pretty soon they're probably going to go to the aid category. And again, PIP is about current daily life. So say, for example, you think, oh my God, I need help. This is, expensive because of you're having to bring in care and whatever, or like being chronically, sorry, I've got my phone on because I've got alarms in case my mum needs me, so I need to leave it on. I can't remember what I was saying. But yeah, so for example, you're like, but they are improving, so I don't know where they're going to stand. It's chronic illness. I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. She had a bad night last night, so she's been a bit confused this morning. So I'm more tired, but I want to get this done because while it's real life, yeah. So say you're thinking, but they're getting better. So what do I do? You do current daily life. Okay, current daily life. And then if they're improved to the point where, say, for example, when you do your assessment, they're 8 points, but then they've improved over the space of a few weeks, you can just let them know. Okay, you can just let them know they're really good about you just updating them that things have changed. okay? Only do that if you actually change points. Don't do that if your points is the same, okay? Because they will put you through the whole assessment again. So taking nutrition, eating. If they cannot feed themselves, they are 10 points if they need feeding. The therapeutic source that's feeding tubes. Okay, so I have seen people on feeding tubes after a stroke because of the swallow. If they swallow, many people when they have a stroke, their swallow is not good. My mum's wasn't. When she first had the stroke, she had, she was trying to, it was like a jelly mix with pain meds on was in her mouth, and you'd had to really go swallow, and she's trying to get her brain to connect to her throat to swallow. So some people do need feeding tubes, okay? Hopefully you're in a position where you or the person that's had a stroke doesn't, in which case, do they need prompting to eat? Do you need to literally make sure the food is put in front of them or they won't eat, okay? Or are they in a position where they need food that's already cut up or liquidized if they're having swallow issues, or soft like shepherd's pie so that they can swallow it? My mum was on that for the first week and a half, and then she was graded by the swallow team. Are they able to cut food? Okay, do you have to cut it up for them? Are they using chunky cutlery? So they could, technically, you could score anywhere in here. Obviously, it depends on the individual. Right, so managing therapy. This one is what most people screw up, okay? So this is how much time does someone or people spend assisting the individual, right? So first of all, are they on medication? Yes, if they've had a stroke, they're going to be on medication, right? Are you using a pill pop? Are they able to pop the pills themselves? My mum, no. Do you have to hand them the medication? Do you need to watch them whilst they're swallowing the medication? Do you need to encourage them to take the tablets? So my mum, absolutely, when she was first on them, you couldn't give her an actual tablet because of her swallow. Then when she progressed to the tablets, you had to watch that she wanted to pick them up herself, which was a challenge, and then watch her take them, which I fucked up one day and found one on the floor. And then it's like if you have carers and the carers are assisting over 14 hours a week, is straight 8 points. Okay. Now, if you're in the position that we're in, where yes, she had full care, my mum had to be supervised overnight when she was in hospital because of restless legs, because of hallucinations. That is normal with stroke. A lot of people get hallucinations. A lot of people get headaches that can last come on and off or last a long time after a stroke, which is scary as fuck when it's a loved one because you're worried, is it another stroke? You need to work out how much time is spent supervising, prompting, or assisting that person, because that's the categories. And then when you're doing this, you need to break it down daily. The way that I break it down with my clients is we get one day and we say, right, AM, first of all, I work out their meds. That's the best way to do it, right? Are they having meds AM and PM? Is it AM, lunchtime, PM? Is it every 4 hours because it's pain relief? What are the meds? Then once I've got the baseline of the meds, I'll say, how long is someone with you for that time? Do they just hand you your meds and you take them straight away and they leave? Get that information. Then, so we've got medication as one, then we've got the assistance. So are you, or the person that you're watching this for, do they have assistance to get up out of bed, get dressed, move into the living room, then assistance with lunchtime, then assistance going to the toilet, then assistance maybe going for a nap after lunch, then getting back up, then assistance getting changed, ready for bed, settling down for the night, any assistance during the night to go to the toilet. Even if that assistance is you helping them get safely from the bed to the commode that is beside the bed, that is assistance, that counts. So break it down on a daily basis. It doesn't need to be to the minute. It's an average. So you could be like, if it makes it easier for you, you can go 5 to 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, whatever you work out, just write down your averages, then add them up for the day, times it by 7 days in the week. And that will give you the time. it is important for the DWP, the person that's assessing you, to understand what the time is for. Okay, so when you break it down that way, that will help when you do the assessment and fill out the forms. Okay, it's really helpful. And it also links into other questions as well. So as you're explaining the other areas which we're coming on to, the assessor will already be figuring it out. So say, for example, the person needs assistance to get dressed. They will already be allocating time, which then comes into this section. Okay, but break it down like that makes a massive difference. And it's also a good way for you to track their improvement over time, or your improvement if you're watching this for yourself. Yeah, because if you can look at it and go, right, now I'm in a position where I don't need them to assist me going on the commode at night. I can do it myself. Well done, you. Like, well done. Huge, huge improvement. I don't need assistance to get dressed because I figured out my own technique, which my mum did, which was for her lower body, she couldn't get to her feet because you are taught, do not, by the physios, do not lean forward because they'll just topple over because your body's not working right. So what she'd do is she'd lay on the bed and she'd do her wiggle technique. Now, I spoke to my mum and asked her about doing a video because I think it's quite interesting speaking to someone that's had a stroke, so I can ask some questions that might be helpful for you. Washing and bathing. So let's just in case you're in the can't do it at all, will be 8 points. Okay, so if someone is having to have bed baths, if you know you have to use a hoist to lift that person into a bath, not at home, 8 points. If someone still has full paralysis on one side of their body, so say let's go left side, so they can do their left side with their right hand, but they can't wash their right side because the left arm is not working right. That would be 4 points. If they need assistance to get in or out, so say they're using the indoor Zimmer frame. So an indoor Zimmer frame either has 2 wheels or no wheels. That's pretty much how you can tell. And they're a bit wobbly. So to get into the shower, if you've got to step over a lip, or even if it's like that and they've got to step over it and you're with them, that counts. Or if they're getting into the bath because they've got a bath chair, or you're helping them step into a bath because you've got a shower and you've got a seat in there, or they're just standing. Anything where you assist them to get in or out is 3 points. If they can't wash their hair because, again, one side of their body's not working, 2 points. Prompting them to have a bath because of the fatigue afterwards, bath or shower or wash. Yeah. Using an aid, so that'll be sitting on a chair, or if they're sitting to have a wash at the sink in either a perch chair, anything that they're sitting on. They could be sat on the toilet, having a wash. Toilet needs. Right. Let me come back to you. A lot of people when they've had a stroke will get urge incontinence. So, for example, my mum, bless her, she'd be there and she'd go, I think I need a wee. And then it'd start. That was it. Like 1 second warning, 1 second. And obviously she was mortified. So it's a lot of reassurance on, it's not your fault. You've got a really good pad in. You've got a really good pad. Don't worry, the pad will catch it. Okay? It happens a lot. And what they'll probably do is give medication to assist with that if you, or to be honest, if you're experiencing that level of incontinence, I don't think you're watching the video at this time. I think you're a loved one watching the video because she wasn't fit to watch something like this at that point. She was in full recovery mode. So if they're in that position, they usually give meds to try and help with that, and then they'll wean them off the meds as you get more control of your bladder. There could be bladder issues after a stroke. Well, there could be any issues, right? Bladder or bowel, okay? So if they're wearing a pad or you're wearing a pad, that's 2 points. Let me go back to the point. So 2 points if you're using a frame around the toilet, which both me and now my mum need to use. And she's been quite graceful about that, to be honest. Then supervision. So she was needing supervision, but she very quickly got to the point where she didn't. So, by the way, my mum's past pension age, so she's not entitled to PIP. Okay. Assistance to be able to manage the toilet. So if they need someone to help clean them, or so, for example, they're holding onto the Zimmer frame and they can't take the toilet roll off. So you're taking the toilet roll off to hand to them, and then they're one frame on the Zimmer frame, one hand on the Zimmer frame, sorry, one hand wiping. That's assistance, okay? Or if you're helping them to get up from the toilet, is assistance. If you're helping them pull up the pads and everything, assistance. Right. So this assistance to manage incontinence. So assistance is not changing the bedding. That's not what they mean with this, okay? When they say assistance here, so it's 6 points if it's either, this should be in block capitals, either bladder or bowel. So bladder, urine, bowel, feces, poo, bowel movement, okay? So the assistance is helping to clean up, so remove the pads, wipes, bag everything up, physical assistance with the process. If they can do it all themselves, it doesn't count, okay? And then assistance with both bladder and bowel incontinence, be 8 points. So dressing and undressing, most people will end up scoring in this, hopefully for a short amount of time. Hopefully they'll get to the point where they can do this themselves, or the amount of assistance they need reduces. So using an aid, this could be that they can't bend to reach their feet, so they're using a sock aid or a shoehorn to get shoes on, okay? You might find a lot of people will just be using slippers. They're all prompting, encouragement to get dressed. If they're stubborn and fiercely independent, it probably won't need the prompting. The prompting might be like, you need to slow down a bit or be careful, right? I caught my mum at one point walking along with a Zimmer frame in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. She was not safe to be doing that. I flipped my lid. No, I didn't. I wanted to flip my lid, but I stayed calm because she's got a trolley that she can push. She just didn't think about it because she thought it'd be okay. It wasn't okay. I'm like, just thinking about all the stuff she's done where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Assistance to do the lower body. The lower body is tough, especially if the left side's not working correctly because we don't want them to topple over. We all know that I think socks are evil. If you've seen any of my videos, socks are evil. The amount of years, I'm 17 years into chronic illness myself. I'm pretty good with my socks right now. But I spent over a decade where I'd fucking look at those socks and I'd be like, you bastards. Because trying to get them on was a nightmare. But I get cold feet. So it was a problem. And at that point, I didn't even know about a sock aid. Had I known about a sock aid, I would have been using it. Because at that point, my hands were pretty good. Now my hands are worse, but I can get to my feet. I'm lucky. My arthritis is it's not many people have it. It's called psoriatic arthritis, and it moves. So I get a break, whereas most people with arthritis, once it's there, it's there. Now that I'm filming this, I'm thinking that actually you watching this right now, you might not be my normal audience, where in my head, most people that watch my videos have been chronically ill for a while. So because this is stroke, this might be the first video you're ever seeing, which in my head means that this might be your first experience with a condition that totally controls your or the person that you're watching this for's life, which means you've got no idea about aids that are available. There are so many aids that are available. There are so many things that you can adapt which will help that person be independent. And this is something that I've realised, I do have a consultancy, there's links in the description, but there's also loads of free stuff. So there's a link to the website where you can get free templates for all the PIP stuff. There's links to a weekly newsletter. I try and do it weekly. If I'm too ill, I might miss some. Weekly newsletter, which is where I do more updates so you get to know what's happening faster. And I write about my life, so there's a lot in there about stroke. Anyway, loads of free stuff. What was I saying? Yeah, so for example, those of us that have been chronically ill for a while with physical conditions, we wear oversized clothing because it's easier to get on. So for me, shoulders is a problem. So I'm always in oversized clothing. Like the reason my hair is not brushed is because pain. We make choices and it's all linked to our conditions. So again, if that would be helpful, comment below. So if you can comment like, do a video on aids equipment, or adapting. I can do another video on that because again, that would be helpful. I think that would be really helpful for you. And I haven't actually done a video like that. I've done a video on evidence, but I haven't done a video of all the stuff that helps me. I do have a link in the description of all the aids that I find helpful, which I'm going to add to because we've got a few more based on the experience with my mum. So yeah, let me know if that helps. And if you're new to my channel, my goal is I set this up because I wish this information had been available when I was first chronically ill. It took over 10 years before I got a grip of chronic illness. And I think I started this channel when I was 12 or 13 years into chronic illness. So if there's anything I can do that can help you, I don't care if the videos get 50 views or whether it gets 200,000 views, so long as they add value, so long as they're helpful to you. So I think I covered the upper body, yeah. So, and the cannot dress at all. So let's go on to communication. Communication, I've seen some people when they've had a stroke where they've used a notebook because fortunately they're right-handed and their left side was affected, so they can still write because speech is impaired due to the face paralysis, okay? So if they're doing that, 2 points. If they need assistance to communicate, so for example, when my mum first had the stroke, I could understand what she was saying, but other people couldn't. So I was communicating for her. Or she was like, when I wasn't there, she was pretty much just pointing and saying it, but some people could understand her, some people couldn't. Again, my mum's past pension age, so she's not entitled to this. The reason basic information is 8 points. So basic information is if a medication has information that says, take this tablet once a day with food. If they cannot understand that, that is basic information, okay? Complex information would be a PIP form. That is complex, really complex. Complex information, my mum needed support with what I would class as complex. So when I speak to the doctors about her, she doesn't get it. She's always been shit at it. It's not necessarily just stroke, but since she's had the stroke, there's a difference, okay? So going to the doctor, there's no way she'd be able to communicate clearly on her own. So I will go to the doctor with her. I will communicate with the doctor on her behalf. She'll give me permission. I'll communicate on her behalf. She won't remember the instructions afterwards. So, and to be honest, because of my brain fog, I have to write it down, otherwise I wouldn't remember. And then cannot express. So I've seen, obviously, there are people that can make sounds, but they're not words, and they're not able to write either. So that would be 12 points. Okay. So reading and understanding. Now, normally this one, when it comes to PIP, is, are you diagnosed with dyslexia? If yes, you will be able to score points. But then they're going to want to know if you went through normal school or if you're in a special class. Now, this is obviously different because of the stroke. So if you can give them a newspaper and they can read text messages, that's how they will assess on this, okay? So if they're using an aid, glasses don't count because obviously able-bodied people wear glasses. This could be that they're using a magnifying glass, that their sight has been impacted by the stroke, so they've got one of those magnifying glasses. This normally is if they use, the speech, text-to-speech software, but I'm thinking that you're not going to be using that for a stroke. It could be that I'm just thinking of using an aid. No, I think we'll stick with magnifying glass for this one, okay? So some people will be in the higher category where they need prompting. So my mum very quickly, quite a lot of people quite quickly were reading, and it wasn't that she could remember it, but she was reading it. So this is about reading and understanding, okay? So she could read a newspaper and she could remember some of it. She could remember the basic stuff, but she couldn't do the complex stuff. So again, basic is, imagine if you've got a medication that says take this tablet once a day. That's basic. If they don't understand that without support, that is 4 points. Complex is a form to fill out. Yeah. Complex is, so complex would be to get to the garden in the hospital, you need to go out of this ward, turn left, go all the way down, first right, second left. That's complex. Actually, cut that down. Go out the ward, turn left, first right. That's complex. Okay. So I hope that helps. And obviously cannot read is 8 points. Mixing with people. This is about anxiety. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the 8 points, right? Overwhelming psychological distress and them at risk of causing harm to someone else or themselves. The stroke, they shouldn't be in that position. They shouldn't be in the 8 points. Okay, so are they they can engage with people unaided? If they're having problems with communication, I would say no. I'd say they're going to be in the social support category. If they need prompting to mix with people because, say for example, they're really embarrassed about the way their face looks or that their left side's not working and they do not want to mix with people because of how they look and you're having to do a lot of encouragement, that would be 2 points. If you need to be with them when they're mixing with people of any kind, 4 points. So, for example, when my mum had care in, I needed to be there. So I was up and down like, it's fucking awful. Because she just didn't know what they were there for, why they were there, and for communicating with them. So I was there and I'm with her for every time she's mixing with someone, I'm there. For moral support, she'll look at me, like they'll ask a question, she'll look at me and I might prompt her to then speak. And then she sort of settles into it. But I need to be with her. This is the last one in daily living. So this is budget. So this means money. Do they understand, or do you understand what money is and how to use it? If I gave you 20 quid and said, get yourself some lunch, would you be able to work out with that 20 quid that you could afford a sandwich, a drink, a snack, and that you're going to get change? If you're not understanding money at all, obviously 6 points. If, say, for example, you're sitting with someone once a month, 2 points. Okay, even if you've taken over all their money or someone's looking after all your money for you, doesn't necessarily mean you're 6 points. You know, that just could be safety factor that you're planning ahead. So, but you could still go to the shop and understand that, oh, this is how much money I've got. Okay, so I hope that helps. So mobility activities. So this isn't just moving around. This isn't just walking. It's split into 2 sections. The first one's planning and following a journey. And this is about going somewhere. So it's the main things is we're going to focus on is unfamiliar, somewhere new, and familiar. Okay. So we're going to start on the heavy points to start with. If you or your loved one, whoever you're watching this for, does not go anywhere on their own, nowhere on their own, outside their own home, unless they're with someone, is 12 points. That's it, 12 points, okay? If they're able to get a taxi on their own to an appointment, that's not 12 points, okay? Now, unfamiliar journey. So what I say on this one is, if the person, you or the person that's had a stroke, had to go to a new hospital that they've never been to before, that is 45 minutes away, how would they get there? It might be that familiar journeys, like, for example, going to the GP, they actually feel okay, or you feel okay, getting a taxi and going to the GP on your own. So you wouldn't get points here because it's somewhere familiar. But if you had to go somewhere you've never been before, you might be like, no, I can't do that on my own, which would be 10 points. Prompting if you're having to really nag them to get them out of the house. Right, moving around. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up something on my website. So if you go to my channel, click on any video, just scroll down. Here, this area is called the description. So if we open that up, so where's the, oh, I've got Instagram on that, right, website. Okay. By the way, all this stuff down here, this is all aids. So there's all links here, and I get like 0.001 pence if you click on them. I don't know how much it is, to be honest, but it's very, very little. So, but you don't. What I'm saying is, you don't have to use that link. You could find out what it is, and then don't use the link. But if you do, I get a little bit of money. Right. So website. Yes, we want to go to the site. So if you go into free stuff, and then if we go to pictorial walking distances, this will help you because everyone really struggles to try and figure out where they are in the points. If they need assistance with any standing, any movement is 12 points. If they can stand up and move 1 metre but no more than 20 metres, so how far is that? So 1 metre is like the length of a guitar, couple of steps. They can do more than the length of a guitar. 2 metres is the length of their bed. 3 metres is where you see a sofa. 10 metres is the length of one double-decker bus. So we're talking 20 metres. So if they can do more than the length of a guitar, but no more than 2 double-decker bus lengths, they would be 12 points. Now that means that they're either, before they get to the length of 2 double-decker buses, that they need to stop and rest, either sat down or leaning on something, or it could be that in their life they're not walking that far because they can't, that they're at home and nothing is more than 2 double-decker buses away, and they're not going out because they can't physically do that walking. Okay. Then the next one is they can do more than 2 double-decker buses, but no more than 5 double-decker buses. So if the buses isn't working for you, 50 metres is roughly the length of half a football pitch. So, sorry, they've split the 2 buses or 5 buses, they've split it down to unaided is 8 points. If they're using an aid, like a walking stick or a Zimmer frame, it's 10 points. And then if they're like really fit, so they can do more than 5 double-decker buses, but no more than 20 double-decker buses, is 4 points. And if you're like not sure, it's an average. I think, to be honest, with a stroke is you're going to fit into one of these. You or they are going to fit into one of these categories. Some of us have conditions that it varies so much, so you need to work out an average. Now, if they can do more than 20 buses without stopping, brilliant, 0 points. So that's all of the assessment. I hope that helps. You will need to know the answers to those questions when you fill out the claim forms, when you do the assessment. Everything will be based around those. And I really hope that if it's you or a loved one that's had the stroke, that within the 2 years they improve, they keep improving so that they can be as independent as possible.